What's poppin', everyone? Is Little Hill Plays. We are back for another week of the PBO, going into week 5. Unfortunately, last week, week 4 against the Wailing Warlords did not occur because of some showdown things of where basically showdown was down for like a couple days and they had to redo the servers and everything, so we unfortunately did not get to battle, so that makes us tie. But overall, it doesn't really matter. It's just unfortunate that we didn't play because I literally made a team builder for it and recorded it, and then we didn't end up playing, but it's fine. So yeah, PBO, draft league on Pokemon Showdown. We are doing Gen 9 Paldea plus Legends Arceus Pokemon. And yeah, we are the New York Nickets. We have Sneasler, Braviary, Hisui, Rotom-Mow, Klefki, Lycanroc, Pyroar, Samurai, Hisui, Tatsugiri, Spidup, Sandaconda, and Gothitelle. And this week, our opponent is the Wichita Weaviles, and their squad is Enamorus, Toedscruel, Overquill, Primeape, Vaporeon, Haunter, Baxcalibur, Magneton, Quagsire, Hatrium, and Ampharos. And just looking at the threats, Enamorus, contrary superpower, is really strong. Also, just looking at it, it has really high attack and special attack and pretty decent speed. Then you have Toedscruel, which is really good ground grass that does get Spore, and also pretty specially defensive and fast as well. So that's a very good Pokemon. Then we have Overquill, which actually most people don't see it like because it's still in Arceus, but this thing has pretty high attack and overall decent bulk. And if you just put Black Sludge Intimidate, which is one of its abilities, it can be a defensive wall. Then you have Primeape, naturally can be Scarfed, but decent speed and also a very strong attack stat. Vaporeon, really bulky, known for just Wish and Baton Passing, Protect, Scalding, just really obnoxious as a wall. Then you have Haunter, which is good special attack and speed, so could be Choice Scarf. Then Baxcalibur is their Terra Captain. Sorry, I forgot to say, my Terra Captain is Sneasler, who can be fighting or flying. Their Terra Captain is Baxcalibur, which can be Dragon or Fairy. Then they have, which Baxcalibur can Dragon Dance, Swords Dance, very disgusting stuff. Then they have Magneton with Magnet Pull, very dangerous. Quagsire with Unaware, also pretty strong. Hatrium, also a pretty good screen setter, also prevents hazard with Magic Bounce. And then Ampharos, which is slow but has a pretty decent special attack stat. So that is their squad. And comparatively, looking at their squad against my squad, if you look at my squad, some of the biggest weaknesses I have on my team is I only have 1 dragon immunity and everything is neutral or super effective, so that sucks. Plus Baxcalibur can just run Earthquake for my Klefki and realistically just take down Klefki as well. So very dangerous situation. As well as Fairy, we only have 2 resist to Fairy in Pyroar and Klefki, and then everything else is neutral and super effective. And on my opponent's team, they have Enamorus, which is extremely strong as a Fairy type and gets coverage for Klefki and Pyroar and Earth Power. And then Baxcalibur that can be Terra Dragon and just completely destroy everything. Like after Terra Dragons, I'm pretty sure the things that doesn't just completely one-shot like is definitely dead. So very scary. It can also be Terra Fairy, which can also be pretty problematic for my team as well. And then looking at answers, Overworld can be pretty decent against my Sneaslers, considering that has Intimidate. Besides that, Haunter can also be annoying because it can be used to pivot between if I'm going to be using a fighting type move or a poison type move. Then Magneton is really strong against my team because Klefki is my only steel type, and once it gets trapped with Magnet Pull, it's definitely dead. Quagsire is very strong against my Sneaslers as well with Unaware, and can also set up Stealth Rocks pretty easily. Hatrium can also be pretty good just for setting up screens. Then Ampharos, I don't see Ampharos really coming that well, although I don't have a great ground type. I just don't see Ampharos coming, but realistically, I definitely see Enamorus coming, Baxcalibur. I think Vaporeon may or may not come. I think it's pretty wally and pretty strong defensively. I think Overquill might come as defensive check for Sneasler. Primeape might come as Choice Scarf. Toedscruel might come as like lead with spikes and such to weaken things for the Baxcalibur. Magneton definitely might come from Magnapult, and then Quagsire might come just because it has Unaware. So that's basically what I'm thinking. Most of their sets will be between everything in here might come. Everything else I'm not so sure. But looking at what I'm bringing for this week, why did the music stop? Ah, we're good. Okay. Looking for what I'm bringing this week, I'm bringing Elm Street, of course, because fighting and poison does really, really well against their team. The things that resist the poison don't resist the fighting stab, and then most things cannot take the attacks of fighting and poison. So Sneasler is actually really cool because we can have, this is essentially a thing that can definitely end up sweeping teams. So we're bringing a White Herb Unburdened set with Close Combat, Swords Dance, Poison Jab, and Brick Break. We're running enough speed to outspeed max speed Enamorous, and once we get our Unburden Burst, we're definitely outspeeding everything. So the thing about this is when Sneasler comes in, there's a high chance that Overquill comes out, because Overquill can, after Intimidate, and if it's fully defensive, take down my Sneasler if it's not like if it's -1. So the thing about this set is I can actually Swords Dance up. If this ever comes out immediately, like if I have Sneasler out immediately, I can Swords Dance up, and once they intimidate me, it really does not matter. I can just Terra Fight and completely one-shot them even if they're fully defensive. Poison Jab is just to hit the fairy types and anything that close combat doesn't hit. This set does not work well against Haunter, but I'm not expecting really Haunter to be a check for this, and if so, I can just switch out and go something else for Haunter. But White Herb procs when the Intimidate is used, but if Intimidate doesn't come and it isn't like the main counter to Sneasler, I can always just Swords Dance, and if I need to use Close Combat to activate my White Herb, I can do that as well. So that is Sneasler, essentially a very good potential sweeper, and we are running Terra Fighting so that we can absolutely crush things like Unaware Quagsire. I'm pretty sure Unaware Quagsire still is a 2-hit KO with Terra Fighting, which is really disgusting. Like, super defensive Quagsire with Unaware still gets 2-hit KO'd by this thing. So worst thing we have to worry about is Close Combat dropping our defensives. That's why I'm bringing Brick Break as a backup in case we don't in case we get a Swords Dance up but we don't want to go for Close Combat. So that was essentially why I'm bringing Brick Break. It's also useful in case Hatrium comes with screens. I did previously have Brick Break on my Gothitelle, but I ended up switching it out. So next we have Klefki, Shed Shell, of course, for the Magneton. I definitely want to bring this thing because it's a good check for both the Enamorous and the Baxcalibur, but the only problem is it gets Magnet Pull Trap, so Shed Shell is like an absolute must. Even if it doesn't even bring Magneton, it's just the threat of Magneton coming makes me like essentially forced to run Shed Shell. Magnet Rise gets rid of our ground immunity. Thunder Wave just very good in case we're getting close to being swept by Baxcalibur or Enamorous. We can just Thunder Wave things. Dazzling Gleam just overall in case I think Baxcalibur will most likely be Dragon because I literally have no Dragon resists. So that's pretty much what I'm thinking, although Fairy is like super defensive typing. I think Fairy doesn't work well with my Sneasler because it makes it a poison weakness. So Dazzling Gleam, Reflect, just overall good for the Baxcalibur as well. In case it's about to sweep me, I can just set up a Reflect. Next we have Reverie. This is actually a pretty unique set. So the interesting thing about this is if I bring Rotom Mow out on Vaporeon or whatever, Enamorous maybe, and I bring this out, essentially I can threaten Enamorous out with a Thunderbolt, but I can also just go for Nasty Plot. And even if Toedscruel comes out and it's fully specially defensive, 2 Leaf Storms will kill it and we're guaranteed to live a Sludge Bomb. I think 2, maybe 3 Sludge Bombs, so I think definitely 2. But the reason why I went with this speed is I think it outspeeds max speed Magneton. This special attack is specifically to make sure that we do enough damage with Leaf Storm. Then red card is kind of interesting because in the certain scenarios where Toedscruel is out and it wants to hit me with a Sludge Bomb, which I think it definitely will bring because like My Rotom Mo gets walled by Toad Scroll, but then their Toad Scroll has Sludge Bomb for Rotom Mo, so I think it might bring Sludge Bomb. So I'm bringing red card, and if it does go for Sludge Bomb, I have a high chance to just immediately throw off a Leaf Storm and hit something for really strong damage, or I could just go straight up for Will-O-Wisp. Ultimately, I think red card is very, very useful. Next, we have Emo Girl, our Gothitelle. This is essentially our switch-in for Enamorus because it's super freaking scary. Assault Fist, max HP, max FDF makes it like a 3-hit KO, which is still terrible. This is if it's specs, by the way. Frisk is also a very useful ability to check for items because it is best of 3. Then we have Thunderbolt to hit the Enamorus back. Shadow Ball for the Hatrium, as well as I think overall just Ghost does well. Yeah, Overquill is the only one that resists. Which if Overworld comes out, I think we just go for Shadow Ball. Then Psyshock, just for psychic damage, and then Future Sight can actually be really useful because we can go for it and it will hit something 2 turns from now. So when Overquill comes out, we can either go directly into Klefki or something to threaten it out, to essentially make where the Future Sight will hit something that maybe my opponent does not want it to hit. Next we have Enamorus. Leonidas, our Pyroar with heavy duty boots on Nerve, and we're running Flamethrower, Hyper Beam, Hyper Voice, Yawn. Sorry, I emphasized the Hyper Voice, not the Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam is the cool tech about this. So Pyroar is like one of the very few Pokemon that outspeed the Baxcalibur on my team, at least the ones that I'm bringing. So it's very, very fast, and also has, depending on the Baxcalibur set, if it gets enough chip, if we get enough chip on it, Hyper Beam does like 65 to 75 damage. Of course, Vaporeon is just an easy check to this, so that's why we brought Yawn, so we can Yawn the Emporeon. I don't know why I'm talking crazy today. Yawn the Vaporeon. Flamethrower is just there for in case Haunter comes and I can't spam normal type moves. But yeah, this is essentially the set, and essentially like a fast offensive way of doing a lot of damage for Baxcalibur. So yeah, that is Leonidas. Next we have Linguini, the Tatsugiri with the Jetpack Storm Drain. We have Rapid Spin, Draco Meteor, Memento, and Surf. So this can also be like, it's definitely not a check to Baxcalibur, but the interesting thing about this is that their team is also pretty weak to Dragon, so they only have Enamorus as their fairy as well. They also have Magneton in the back, but we do have Surf for that, and it should do a lot of damage. But essentially with this set, it's giving us the ability to Draco Meteor or something and then eject pack out of there, so we also have priority, or not priority, but like initiative on something. That's the whole idea with this set. Rapid Spin is in case hazards get too bad. Memento is in case I want Sneasler out on something that like can't do any damage to me and start setting up. Surf is also pretty useful, although bad on Vaporeon. Surf is useful against, I was thinking about running Icy Wind. Icy Wind. This takes more from Surf. Do I make a last minute change? I mean, that means I can't hit Magneton, which is kind of bad. Yeah, I think the whole reason why I'm running Surf is because of Magneton. But then should I run Memento? I mean, Tatsugiri is pretty faster than most stuff, which is kind of nice. Most things. Should I run Memento or should I run Icy Wind? I mean, realistically, nothing is taking Draco Meteor. That's why I am bringing it, except for Vaporeon. But the whole point is to Draco Meteor on Vaporeon and then again an initiative. So I think I'm just going to leave Memento how it is. I don't want to change up too much stuff. We should be battling in like an hour or so. But yeah, that is the squad. Probably going to get wrecked by Baxcalibur, to be honest. Probably going to get wrecked by Enamorus. But I felt like I did a pretty good job, because there's literally no defensive checks for Baxcalibur on my team, especially since it just has Earthquake. And like, definitely think it will be Terra Dragon, just because Terra Dragon Glaive Rush just like destroys everything in my squad. So definitely going to be very difficult to deal with. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the battle. Peace. All right, and we are here for the battle. Okay, so game one, our opponent is bringing Baxcalibur, Enamorus, Vaporeon, Quagsire, Toedscruel, and Ampharos. This means looking at my opponent's team, my Sneasler should be able to 2-hit KO Quagsire with a Terra Fighting, and should be able to take on most stuff. And using Terra Fighting, I should be able to 2-hit KO everything. Especially since Overquill isn't here, that would still get 2-hit KO'd. But leading off, I decide to go for Sneasler as my lead, as they decide to go for Ampharos. So I really was not expecting Ampharos this match. So when this did lead out, I was kind of concerned. I didn't know specifically what it could be, but then I definitely looked at it and I saw static. And then I did check a calc of Sneasler does, I think, barely 2-hit KO this with Terra Fighting, but the probability of me getting static made me kind of scared to stay in here. Also, for the team builder, I brought Poison Jab instead of Dire Hit. I have no idea what I was thinking. It's been technically like a week, more than a week since I team built the last time, so I'm just not used to always bringing Dire Hit. Maybe I just wanted Poison Jab, higher chance of poisoning, but I don't know. Anyway. Oh, my mic is a little bit loud. Okay. So I decided to switch out here because I thought this thing might be defensive, and if it paralyzes me, that's gonna suck. So I immediately go Rotom mode. They actually do a hard switch in Quagsire. If I Terra Fighting here, I would have been able to 2-hit KO this thing, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I do get a good double on Quagsire to at least go for a Leaf Storm. And I was predicting the Toedscruel to come out, and thinking that it would be specially defensive, I do decide to go for a Nasty Plot. Here I was I kind of made the wrong assumption. So they're definitely hitting me with a Sludge Bomb. I kind of forgot I was red card. I was just going for Leaf Storm, but I thought Leaf Storm was still a better play here, because if I went for Thunderbolt and the wrong thing came out, like if it was Quagsire, I would have just done nothing. So I think going for Leaf Storm here was the correct play. So they go for Sludge Bomb, red card does activate, and it brings out Ampharos, which takes a good 68%. At this point I was still wondering what this was, but later it is a Assault Vest set. Has a pretty unique EV spread. I definitely make sure to check out my opponent's PBO view, which I will put in the description. They go for another Sludge Bomb as I set up a Nasty Plot into a Leaf Storm, and I barely miss out on the KO. And then I bring back out Sneasler and go for Terra Fight, pretty sure. And then I see that's a 2-hit KO. And then I decide to, my White Herb proc, so I decide to go for another one. They make a correct switching going into Toedscruel. And then I saw that when Baxcalibur comes out, I definitely survive a Ice Shard, but I was more worried that they might set up a Swords Dance, so I thought, I already have my White Herb procced. I do have my Unburden up. Also, if they go for a Dragon Dance, then it's a giant misplay on their part, so I do decide to go for another close combat here, and I do a good 80%, which is really good. It chips it down, but Vaporeon later will be able to just wish it right back up. So unfortunately I lose Sneasler, and looking at the rest of my team, it kind of just gets hard walled by Vaporeon. I mean, I have some chances, but most of the time, like, all these are special attackers and Klefki can't do much, so Vaporeon is going to be very hard to deal with for the rest of this game. I do decide to go in Pyroar. I was predicting Vaporeon to go out, so I go for Yawn. Get that thing Drowsy, go for a Hyper Voice because I thought he might switch out because of the Drowsy, but he Baton Passes. And then I did not realize this about Yawn, but apparently you can Baton Pass and just completely get rid of the drowsiness, which completely sucks. So Yawn is actually not that great against Vaporeon. I probably should have brought Taunt because Pyroar does get Taunt, but I thought Yawn would be good for the Vaporeon. Anyway, Ampharos comes out. I go for another Hyper Voice. They decide to go for a Volt Switch and go right back out into Vaporeon. So I switch in Tatsugiri thinking that they might have a Water type move, and they decide to go for Wish. I go for a Rapid Spin. It's kind of important because it does allow me to outspeed Baxcalibur if it comes back in. So here, they make a good play and switch into Enamorus on my Draco because obviously Enamorus is immune to that. I probably should have brought Icy Wind or Taunt, on Tatsugiri because I think Vaporeon is more of an issue than I thought. But Icy Wind also would have been good for the Enamorous, but Vaporeon comes, Enamorous comes out and goes for a Moonblast. Does a lot of damage to my Gothitelle. 25% means that it's modest. It did end up being Choice Scarf because of my Frisk. And I go for a Future Sight. I thought it might be useful, especially since Overquill isn't here. Might be able to get on damage on something that I might not normally get damage on. I do switch into Tatsugiri. I think I go for another Rapid Spin because I think it's useful for the Baxcalibur, but they Baton Pass into Ampharos, and it dies to a Future Sight. Pretty nice because it also doesn't get the Wish. Then Enamorous comes out because it is Choice Scarf. It does kind of force me out, so I go Gothitelle. They bring out Baxcalibur, which is loaded dice, so I decide to go for Klefki. They reveal Substitute, which is actually really, really strong. I'm also really glad that they're Terra Dragon and not Terra Fairy because my Klefki only has Flash Cannon. And Sub, I think if it was Fairy type and I only had Dazzling Gleam, I don't think I would have broken the Sub. So I do go for the Magnetize because I am kind of curious to see if it has Earthquake. I really don't know if it has Earthquake yet. I go for Icicle Spear. This turn I'm definitely going for a Dazzling Gleam to get rid of the Sub. And then I'm pretty sure they switch out here. Yeah, they go Quag. I probably should have been more aggressive on my doubles, but Quag comes out, just recovers. Honestly, this thing is super hard to deal with, so I do go for a Yawn here. They set up Stealth Rocks. I go back out into Gothitelle because I didn't know whether it was going to stay in or not. I do kind of get a good switch on Vaporeon because I can go for like a Future Sight and start Thunderbolting. Actually, I think Psyshock did more. That's why I went for Psyshock there. Let's see. So I switch back out into Klefki. They go for another Icicle Spear. I'm taking a good chunk, but at this point I still am able to set up a Reflect. They also take a little bit from Future Sight there, but overall their team is like not being really whittled down, but I'm really taking some damage from rocks, and just overall like my team does not have good recovery. Go for Rapid Spin, doesn't really matter. This is gonna go for Wish, or no, it goes for Baton Pass, brings out Enamorous. Have to go into Gothitelle, and now I kind of see after this Moonblast, like we're just going to end this kind of constant cycle of like nothing's really happening and my team is just getting chipped down. Because essentially I have nothing for Vaporeon. I'm starting to realize that I probably should be trying to make some predictions of going, like even if I surf there, it didn't matter, like Wish was coming out. So now at this point, my opponent's starting to make some headway, goes for Moonblast. Moonblast pretty much wrecks my whole team, so that's why I go Pyroar. And I did have Hyper Beam, but I was really scared to use it, so after I go for a Hyper Voice, I do kill this with Hyper Beam. But also I was expecting, I hadn't seen Protect yet, but they do go for Protect to get that little bit of leftovers. Again, I could go for Hyper Beam here, but then I think about the result of Baxcalibur just comes in, goes for a Substitute. Or no, not even a Substitute. They just set up a Dragon Dance, and then I'm pretty sure they just finished the game there. So realistically, I probably should have just gone for Hyper Beam there, because I think at this point the game is definitely lost. I probably should have just tried to take out as many as I could. So realistically, like you can kind of see that my opponent plays very well and basically stalls me out. I don't think we really need to go over this because it's not really that important. Like I do get a sleep off, but like at this point, this is in, like everything is pretty much dead here. I don't even know if I do end up getting a final KO. I probably should have gone for Hyper Beam. I was thinking that Vaporeon would switch in here, but yeah, it doesn't matter. And we end up losing to the Scarfed Enamorous. So that was game one. I felt like it was actually a pretty good game one because there was a lot of things that I needed to scout for this one. So Klefki, was it worth bringing Magnetize? We still don't know because Baxcalibur could be Earthquake or it could be Ice Shard. And then Enamorous, we know that it's Choice Scarfed. We know that the Vaporeon, Baton Pass, Wish, Protect, so it really doesn't have too much. Based off this, well, we'll talk about it in a later game. It is Unaware Quagsire. We don't know the whole set on Toad Scroll, but we do know it is actually faster than my Rotom Mow. So it does have some EVs and speed. Then Ampharos, we still don't know what it is, but it seems to be like somewhat bulky. So going into game 2, this is definitely important just for my team of figuring out what I need to check their team, as well as what does Sneasler need to win. So moving on to game 2, definitely more confident that I could essentially set up Sneasler and win, because essentially once I get up a Swords Dance, well, Quagsire still has to be like, Quagsire is not a switch into Sneasler. Essentially Quagsire has to be full health in order to stop Sneasler. So looking at moving forward, I am essentially this game really trying to prep for a Sneasler sweep. So Enamorous leads. I lead off with Rotom Mow. They make a good switch in going for Toad Scroll. I actually double up because I could have gone for Thunderbolt, but it wasn't. I mean, I definitely lived to Moonblast, but I didn't know if it was worth it in my eyes to go for a Thunderbolt. I thought that I had Gothitelle with Assault Vest. This is essentially what it's used for, so I am just going to bring it in. We do see that Toad Scroll is heavy duty boots. Then we see Quagsire come out. I don't really know what I'm planning to go for here. I think I double again on the Sneasler. I could have also gone for CC, but I think that was a little bit sketchy because I wasn't sure if it had Earthquake or what it had as its entire set yet. So we just go for a Will-O-Wisp. I think that's really useful for Chip, but obviously Vaporeon is like such a pain in the ass of just like wish passing everything. So this is actually a super scary thing here. So I saw that Excalibur is in, but also like I didn't know whether if it was just going to go directly for sub, but my Psyshock does break its sub. So I was thinking that it might go for substitute, so I go for Psyshock. They Dragon Dance up, and you can see my Psyshock would have broken their sub. But here's really scary because I don't know whether I should switch in Klefki immediately or if I should essentially sack Gothitelle. But also, like, if they Dragon Dance up again, if they keep Dragon Dancing, like, then we're definitely lost. So I stayed in, which is actually really good because I really was debating on going Klefki here. They go for an Earthquake. I go for a Psyshock, get a little bit more chip. And then I immediately go out into my Klefki. And immediately I think I go for Magnet Rise. They switch out into Baxcalibur, and it's so annoying because Baxcalibur is so strong, like setting up Dragon Dancing, and realistically if it Terra Dragons and it has that really good defensive typing, Vaporeon can just wish Baton Pass, and there's really nothing to do to prevent Baton Pass because I didn't really bring Taunt on any of my Mons. So I think, well, we'll talk about it at the end of this, but we go for a Dazzling Gleam against the Ampharos because I was kind of didn't really know what this was. So I was just kind of seeing what the set was. They go for Brick Break. They reveal Brick Break to get rid of my screens. Really cool tech. So we reflect again. Take a Volt Sedge. Taking 33% is, whew, that's a lot. We see Vaporeon comes in, goes for a Wish. I don't know why this is such a bad play on my part. I was like, oh, they're just going to switch in an Enamorous right now. But of course, they can just go for a slow Baton Pass and then get him back to Excalibur and Wish up. And now it's back at full. So it's just a giant pain in the ass. As well as right here, I also go for another misplay. Obviously, my Draco Meteor kills here, especially since I don't die through Reflect. And I know their last move is Earthquake, so they don't have Ice Shard. So realistically here, I should have never gone for Draco because they make a really good play and go into Enamorous. I probably should have just Surf there just for some chip. It probably wouldn't have mean much because Vaporeon can always just wish Baton Pass into it. But yeah, we go into our Pyroar this time because our Gothitelle is now down. We go for another Yawn, but of course this doesn't really matter because it can just slow Baton Pass. So yeah, of course it's just gonna go for a Baton Pass, and the annoying thing there is like I can't even double Yawn because Vaporeon is still in, but also I don't do any damage with Pyroar. So I went Rotom Mow, but realistically that was just like really hard to deal with. Baton Pass Vaporeon probably was definitely not prepared for this. So Baxcalibur sets up a substitute. I had to go for a Magnet Rise that first turn because I knew that they had Earthquake now. So I have to go for Magnet Rise here. Next turn, they go for an Icicle Spear. I think I lived this one as well. Yeah, we lived that one. So at least I break the sub. Also right here, I essentially had to go for Dazzling Gleam because I felt like if I reflected, and having sub up still problematic. But the annoying thing is that like this is not like a one-on-one situation of like my Klefki just took all that damage and they can just like easily switch out and heal up later. But realistically my Klefki is like essentially done. But this thing is still very, very healthy and annoying. So I see the Vaporeon comes in. I'm gonna go off for a T-Wave. Obviously not a good way of preventing this monster from happening, but I do go for another Oh, I actually go for Thunder Wave there. Probably just should have gone for a Dazzling Gleam, but realistically it doesn't matter because Vaporeon could have wished up. So right now we're looking at the squad. I am essentially trying to set up for my Sneasler. I think this is when it happens. Yeah, so I go Sneasler. I was really expecting them to switch into Quag, so I'm pretty sure I just Terra Fight. No, I actually Swords Dance up. Ooh, wow, I'm ballsy. Because I would have taken a lot from Thunderbolt, but they go for a Volt Switch. I take 34, which is still reasonable, and Quagsire comes in, and this is really good for me because at this point I know that I 2-hit KO Quagsire, as well as it doesn't really matter, like I can take an Earthquake even if my defenses drop. So at this point I'm like, okay, as long as I don't die here, I should just sweep the rest of the team. So I go for a close combat and White Herb procs, and my opponent reveals counter, and my sweep is essentially done. So yeah, super good tech on my opponent's part. Also didn't even reveal it game one, which is super good. So good prep on their part. Without that counter, I thought we would have swept the rest. I mean, not even thought, I definitely would have just swept the rest. Has my Unburdened procs and lets me outspeed everything. And at this point, yeah, I was definitely down in the dumps because I bring in Rotom Mow, and with these 3 Pokemon left, I was like, okay, well, no way of winning. Kind of didn't really play for differential either, so doesn't matter. We missed a Leaf Storm, and essentially I just kind of let this thing set up on me. But it doesn't really matter because I already know that the game is lost at this point. So essentially what's happening is Baxcaller is setting up and then just sweeps the rest of the team. But I think I've learned something of my playstyle in terms of how I like to do drafts. So obviously we lost. This one's a 6-0, so it's kind of bad. First game was still close. I think this game was also really close if I didn't get countered, but it was just really good prep on my opponent's part. And I think we kind of messed up on our prep. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go into like post evaluation of like what I could have done better. Realistically, I don't think I was prepared as much as I should have for Vaporeon, because I think I should have, in both games, I didn't really recognize Vaporeon as much of a threat as it should have been. Because realistically, my only check to Vaporeon is Rotom Mow, as well as like Sneasler setting up Swords Dance and winning. So it doesn't really make sense for me to keep using Rotom Mow for Toedscruel. Also, like I tried to burn Baxcalibur and that was just like incorrect play because I forgot, I didn't even know that it's immune to burn because of its ability. But I think I really misplayed on the Vaporeon. I think in terms of team building, I don't think we did bad, but I really think Pyroar's Yawn was really not useful at all. Because I didn't realize how it worked with Baton Pass. So Yawn was just absolutely terrible. We could have just brought Taunt. That would have been really strong. Also Memento on Tatsugiri was essentially useless. Should have just brought Taunt too. Rapid Spin was still pretty good. Will-O-Wisp was essentially useless on Rotom Mow. Should have just brought Volt Switch instead of Will-O-Wisp. I think that also could have helped drive a little bit of momentum, as well as just like when Rotom Mow was out on Quagsire, I can essentially just throw off Leaf Storms because I think it's still 2-hit KOs Toad Scroll. Like it does enough damage where it does enough damage where it's kind of spooky. But I think also I was kind of utilizing Rotom Mow as a check to Toad Scroll when I don't think I should have been, because obviously it knows Sludge Bomb. So there's definitely more to like a lot of mistakes that I made. I think my prep was not terrible, but definitely some moves that I absolutely needed. I absolutely underestimated Vaporeon, just because that thing wishing and slow baton passing is just like so easy to just anything that's weak to just get back up to full health. I think Sneasler, we didn't do a bad job. I think we could have threatened more stuff than we were supposed to. I think we should have gone out a little bit more on Weakened Baxcalibur as well as Toadscruel Ampharos. I think that was my way of getting in. I also think we probably could have gone in on Vaporeon as well, because I was worried of what the final move was, but it ended up being Hyper Voice, not Chilling Water or Ice move. So I think there was some bad prep there, but ultimately I think in terms of my game style, I'm starting to realize just like as a player, I don't really do well off like hyper offensively. And looking at just like my squad, wait, I actually don't want to show it because here, we'll show this because I'm making some changes. Essentially, I'm starting to realize that I'm not a very strong like hyper offensive player, which is kind of what my team runs around, because Sneasler is very, very offensive. It's fast, hits hard, threatens a lot of things, but I kind of need to like make aggressive plays in order for that to happen. Braviary Hisui, very strong but slow, but can essentially put in a lot of work. Rotom Mow is decently fast, can Volt Switch, does a lot of damage with Thunderbolt and Leaf Storm. Klefki, really good for setting up screens, Stealth Rocks and stuff. You know, it definitely helps chip things down to essentially have something set up and sweep. Maybe I haven't been utilizing screens as effectively as I should have. Lycanroc also, like, everything on my team is like somewhat frail but does a lot of damage, you know what I mean? Like, I can't just keep, the way I play Pokemon is like have like defensive options that kind of chip away at things and like have checks and counters for stuff. But I think that this team is kind of operating hyper offensively, where like I need to make aggressive switches. I need to essentially just have like really utilize the power that I have of like running specs or band or something like that to really put in a lot of damage and then set up for a sweep, or just start hazard stacking and then sweep. Yeah, I think I just need to, I think it's more built around being aggressive, but me as a player, I'm not a very aggressive player. I'm definitely more of like a bulky mons that also can do damage. So next week I am making a pretty significant trade. I'm getting rid of Samurott Hisui for Hatterene. This really helps. Hold on, let me do that. Oh no, this is good. Sorry, thought it had some of my future switch-ins, but currently with Samurott Hisui gone, it essentially allows me to be a little bit less vulnerable to dragon types, which I really like. Having an immunity in Fairy, and Fairy is just really strong typing. We are getting a little bit more weaknesses, but I am planning on making some future trades. Obviously we have 3 Psychic type mons, but essentially the problem with Samurott Hisui that I was having is it's pretty strong. Like 108 attack is pretty good, 100 special attack is very strong. It also has sharpness as its ability and has ceaseless edge, which is very strong with such up spikes. The only problem is like it's not slow. It has 85 base speed, but I think for me I have problems using it because I like things that 2-hit KO, or at least have like can threaten things out. Like when my Samurai Hisui comes in on something that's absolutely full health and doesn't like one shot it, it kind of makes me think of like why am I bringing it? So I just don't think it was that good of a fit for me. So that's why I dropped it and went Hatterene. There's a lot of benefits for Hatterene. Obviously Hatterene, very high special attack stat. It is super slow, but it does have high SPDEF. Attack, defense also pretty good. So the only thing that's bad about it is HP and speed. Let's go Hatterene. So also has really good advantages of being a magic bounce user, as well as anticipation is actually not bad because you can check for super effective or Oko moves if magic bounce is bad, but most of the time you're bringing bounce or magic bounce. So the nice thing about this is it does get like slow baton pass, which is really strong. Calm Mind, Dark Pulse, Dazzling Gleam, Draining Kiss, Giga Drain, even has Healing Swish, screens as well. Thunder Wave, Nuzzle, Trick Room, Swords Dance, Substitute, just a lot of cool moves that I think are very useful. Definitely very useful. Compared to, I think Samurai Hisui was very good offensively, but the only thing is that has, I don't know, the only thing, it has its uses, but I definitely think Hatterene is just more my playstyle of it can be bulky while also doing a lot of damage. So I think it'll be a little bit more my style. So yeah, that's essentially the play that we're making. We're also going to make some more changes in the future to just kind of go with the playstyle that I like, because we did kind of get wrecked this week. It was close though, but kind of just I don't know. I want to make changes and I want to do things effectively, but also I think my prep was pretty bad because I should have prepared more for Vaporeon, Wish, Protect, Slow Baton Pass. I should have brought a lot more things with Taunt. But yeah, I think Samurai Hisui, dropping Samurai Hisui for Hatterene will be very useful for us. But you know, who knows? They might even lose more games. Who cares? It's all about having fun at the end of the day. Trying to get the W, trying to stay champion, fighting for my life out here, you know. So at the end of the day, thank you guys for watching. I know I just ranted for probably way too long, but I hope you guys are enjoying the PBO content, and we'll be back for next week, hopefully getting a dub. I don't know exactly who my opponent is, but we're gonna give it our all. We're gonna bring some heat. So I'll see y'all on the next one. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.